Okay, thank you. Okay, so greetings from frozen and chilly Belarus. My name is Iryna Rudzko, and currently I work for International House Minsk. Today I'm going to talk about some basic activities which help my online classroom to be more interactive and my students fully engaged in lessons. Apologies if you've already come across some of them. Hopefully you'll also find some of the ideas useful. Please don't worry if you can't keep up with me, as there will be a recording as far as I know, and also at the end of my talk, I'll give you a link where you can find my presentation and all the resources I'm going to talk about today. So I'm not going to stop at any point during the talk. So the first resource is Google Jamboard. It's an empty board where you can draw and add some pictures and sticky notes. I use it to pre-teach or teach new vocabulary. I create a board, then make copies for every pair in my group and ask them to match, for example, pictures and phrases in pairs before we check it open class. These pictures were taken from a free stock photo site, so they're copyright free, no worries about it. Jamboard can be used for any kind of matching activity. Here, I first ask my students to divide the cards into take and get columns. Then after open class check-in, I put them into pairs and ask one student to make a sentence and the other student to guess if it's true or false. By the way, whenever you're watching this session live now or you're watching a recording, you can easily scan the QR code or follow the link below to try it yourself. You can also use board games on your online lessons. It was my colleague who suggested this idea to me and I really love it. There are lots of board games which you can find on the internet for free. The resource which I personally like is this one. Or every now and then I create my own board games, but honestly, not very often. So I find a board game, take screenshots and put it on Jamboard. Also remember to source a board game as copyright is important. Now you might have come up with a question concerning where to take the counters. So I use sticky notes. My students take a sticky note and write their name on it. Let me show you how it works in reality. Something okay already is using it. Yeah, I can take a sticky note, type my name here. And I can easily move it to play together with my partners. Yeah, I can see somebody is doing the same. Okay, so your next question might be where to source the dice. The solution is simple. I ask my students to go to google.com and type roll dice. To share a board game with your students, press share. Then press anyone with the link can edit for students to be able to move their counters. These are some ideas on how to use Google Jamboard, but I'm sure you have more, so please feel free to share them in the chat box or in the questions and answers box. I like using it because I, as a student, don't have to register there. Now let's talk about two popular online whiteboards, Miro and Desktop. They're basically the same and have the same tools, so I'm not going to talk about the minor differences between them. On these boards, you can use such tools as text or sticky notes, create different shapes, use connection lines, or draw something. Here there are more options for counters, and you can use a YouTube video to roll the dice. Make sure you give all your students access to edit the board, actually, not just to view it. I also use online boards for role-playing. I put a task on a board along with some cards with roles for A and B students. If students finish early, they can take a different card. Students follow connection lines to find their cards. Here, students follow connection lines and have some prompts to ask questions. Their cards are different. Some of my students use their phones or tablets, but as you can see, it's still convenient. It's possible to pinch it out to make it easier to see. Here I ask my students to match a picture activity and a word, but they also like drawing with a virtual pencil. And I personally enjoy moving objects on the board. Of course, you can do the same on Jamboard, but for me, it's simpler to do the same on Miro. Also, it's more convenient to do revision activities here as the board is just bigger. This is what we do at International House in our real classrooms, but it can be easily adapted for online use. Students need to roll the dice. If they have 1 or 2, they draw. 3, 4, they mime. 5, 6, they explain a word for their partners to guess. To practice vocabulary, you can create a worksheet in Word or on your computer and put it on a board. Then you just cover each grid with a sticky note for students to delete them and make a story. When my students make pronunciation mistakes or don't know a word or expression but want to use it, I help them, and after that I write the words somewhere in my own notes. Then, after a couple of lessons, I create this activity to revise language where students have 2 options, which you can see on the slide. In a similar way, you can create other activities, for example, bingo cards. It's really fast and easy if you use sticky notes. Or I can place some questions here instead of creating yet another Word document. Students enjoy doing this task. Again, feel free to write your ways of using these boards in the chat box, please. Personally, I prefer Miro and Docs to Google Jamboard as they have more tools and encourage more creativity. But the main difference is that students have to register on a board to be able to edit the content. However, they can use their existing Google or Facebook accounts. To run a variety of semi-controlled practice activities and speaking tasks, I enjoy using Wordwall. This site is really worth your attention as there are lots of different modes, and you can also create printable copies and use in a real classroom when the situation is over, of course. You can easily create your own exercises or find some ready-made ones and modify them, as LazyMe usually does. Let me show you how it works in reality again. On this site, I can choose any mode. So you can see the modes here. Random wheel is my favorite one. So now I spin the wheel to ask my partner a question. Then my partner spins it to ask me. Or you can choose a random cards mode to do the same. So easy and fun. You can use Wordwall for a variety of controlled practice. I put my students into pairs and ask one of them to share screen with a partner. The site doesn't require registration. And the last resource I want to look at, which I'm sure is known to everybody, is Google Docs. This is just a simple idea which doesn't require much preparation. It was suggested by Glenn Standish from IH Torren. Hi Glenn, if you're watching. You simply create a table with 2 columns and write the names of your students in the first column. I ask my students to type in only a few words to complete the gaps from their course books, not to type the whole sentence, so we don't spend too much time. I can monitor them, and if I disagree with something they're writing, I highlight some words, as I usually do in a real classroom, to help the student to notice his or her mistake. Every time when my students work in pairs or groups in breakout rooms, I listen to them and write examples of good and bad language for delayed language feedback. So at the end of a lesson, I share the document with students and ask them to find mistakes, improve something, rephrase or complete gaps. Here I can see what they're writing and accept or reject their corrections. Students can also log into their accounts, so you can see their names here. When I share a document with students, I give them access only to make comments. Again, please feel free to share your ideas in the chat box. I like Google Docs as it's easy to use and students don't have to register. So these are the resources I've been talking about today. Please follow the link or scan the QR code to get my presentation. Take a screenshot not to lose it. I'm just waiting for a couple of seconds for you to take screenshots. Okay, and if you have any questions, you can always contact me. That's my email address and Facebook profile. Also, I'm going to share some more ideas on teaching online on my Instagram page soon. So thank you for your attention, guys.
Hi, Iryna. A couple of questions that came up, if you don't mind. Are all the things free that you're showing? So, like, are all the websites free to use?
Sorry, what's the question again?
Are the websites like Jamboard, Miro,
yes.
Are they free to use?
Yes, they're free to use. Yes, and easy to register. You can have just your Google account and just to log in there.
Perfect. And the other question that came up a few times is, do these things work in breakout rooms?
Yes. I ask one student, so when I put them in pairs, I give them a link before when we work open class, and I ask one person to share his or her screen. So yes, when I in a breakout room, I can see how they're working.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. I just wanted, there was a lot of questions coming into the box, so I wasn't sure if you had seen them. Okay, I interrupted, so I'll hand over back to Tanya now, who will finish it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Iryna. There's some fantastic ideas. I think one person was saying that they think they might be a bit overwhelmed by using them all. Oh, I think I've lost you already. Have you gone?
No, sorry, yeah.
I was just going to say, do you have any tip for starting out using some of these things? Because there's a lot of ideas there, and if somebody is feeling a bit overwhelmed, anything that you might start with?
Yeah, I think we just people just should choose 1 or 2 activities they really like, at least one resource to start with, and then it's going to become easier. I don't think I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, I agree there are lots of resources, but these resources are really easy to use, and they make my life easier. I think my students' life easier. So just take 1 or 2 activities you like and improvise in your classroom.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us today. All right, take care. Bye-bye.